Okay, so I've looked into it, and it is possible for a random mob to acquire an item from Apotheosis that has a bonus on it that does cold damage. Cold damage ignores armor, and I didn't have the protection levels to negate it. And unlike powdered snow, cold damage from a weapon is extremely fast and substantially higher. In fact, it is possible for it to have effectively done 8 damage per hit on top of whatever the actual damage was, although I obviously don't know what the number was because whatever it was didn't drop its weapon. Now, that is a legitimate death. And I'm going to ignore that. That is not to say I will ignore all deaths, but I am going to give myself 3 lives on this. I know it's not true hardcore, but that was a really, really dumb way to die. And even beyond that, this is intended to be a fun series for me. And as much as I do enjoy the idea of hardcore, and I believe that permanent consequences are essential, that specific death was not fun, interesting, or a character flaw on my part. A lot of my deaths tend to be the result of hubris or just poor reflexes, as is the case with my fall damage death. Actually, wait, no, I didn't have anything to prevent fall damage. So just stupidity, I guess. That's a character flaw. So... Actually, you know what? No, screw 3 dice. I will keep going until I die for a reason that is either interesting or my fault. We'll go with that. So that death will not count. But if the next death is my fault, that's my fault. It's not even 3 lives. Anyway, I was in the middle of this cave. I did not own that recovery compass. I'm going to turn that on and get my equipment back in order. Okay, we'll toss you, toss you. Toss you. Where the hell did I get bone blocks from? Ooh. Max 10? What the hell? Sure, I'll take Malahai. Back to the video.
Any other character, a less tightly written movie may well have made the more obvious decision to give all of these moments to Aragorn instead, because Aragorn is a far more central character to the Lord of the Rings than Boromir. But if we didn't get these setup scenes with Boromir, the emotional impact of his sacrifice would not have been anywhere near as powerful. With this sequence in Arcane, visually, musically, and stylistically, it is excellent, and in isolation, I would praise it. But in context with the story, and the characters within it, I can't praise it, because rather than feeling something, as was the case in episode 3 of season 1, for example, I am instead aware that the writers desperately want me to feel something, but they have not given me a reason to. I felt a greater emotional response at Rictus's death than Random Kid's death, because Rictus was a coherent character who acted almost entirely appropriately in context with the world around him. He was not manipulatively written, and despite him being a very simplistic character, and despite him lacking any kind of arc or development, he was a reliable constant within the show. It is very easy to understand what Rictus is doing and why, And so when he is torn apart by Warwick whilst reaching for his weapon so that he can continue fighting, we can empathize with Rictus because he is a believable character. Random Kid is not a believable character. Random Kid is a plot device that has very blatantly been inserted into the story so as to manipulate the audience's emotions. Her relationship with Jinx is fucking ridiculous, and yet the show clearly portrays this as a noble act of self-sacrifice. When Boromir sacrificed himself to try to save Merry and Pippin, this was not because he was incredibly emotionally vulnerable and had been brainwashed into thinking that Merry and Pippin were the most important people in Middle-earth. Random Kid is a child who was inspired by Jinx to kill herself. By keeping Random Kid around, essentially as a pet, Jinx destroys this child's life and steals her future. And the show doesn't appear to be aware that this is what happened. The tragedy is very much framed as though Random Kid is making an informed decision to go down in a blaze of glory in order to save her family. This is meant to be a repetition of the end of Act 1 of Season 1. Random Kid has become Powder, but this time she uses the gemstones deliberately in a suicidal attack to save her family rather than as a tragic accident. This is framed as though Random Kid is being heroic, when Random Kid, much like Powder, cannot possibly have understood the destructive power of her weapon, which means her actions here could have killed Jinx, Vi, Caitlyn, Ambessa, Singed, Jace, and a whole load of Noxian soldiers. The explosion in Season 1, Episode 3 was rather large, and it was contained inside a building. The explosion in Season 2, Episode 6 takes place out in the open, which means there is nowhere to hide. Instead, everything works out just right so that she can disable Warwick, provide a distraction for the heroes to escape off-screen, and also end her own life, thus fulfilling
One thing
her
that always bugged me is how that
purpose
actually
to
disabled
make the audience feel sad.
It shouldn't.
And so, the
whole
climax
point
of
is
the
that he's a
highest
regenerative
rated
super
episode
monster.
of Season 2 on IMDb is a child who worships a psychopathic terrorist taking a gun bomb and using it to emulate the behavior of this psychopathic terrorist, ending her own life in the process. This is a scene in which a child is inspired by Jinx to kill herself, and the crowd goes wild. Now let's take a look at the characters and see how they hold up by the end of Act 2. Ambessa has 20 minutes of screen time, the 5th highest in Act 2. She is the primary antagonist of Act 2, and seems to do things because she is the antagonist rather than because they make sense or are in character. Her objective is still to acquire Hextech weapons, although she goes about achieving this goal in an entirely nonsensical manner by feeding goat people into a lethal science machine one by one until it works, and she apparently never considered looking for Victor to ask for help. Upon witnessing Singed's abomination going on a rampage, her plan changes and she seems to drop the whole Hextech thing entirely. She is now singularly focused on capturing Warwick to use him as a weapon against her enemies. The way she goes about achieving this goal is equally nonsensical, as she apparently has absolute trust in Singed, a highly suspicious man whom she has just met, allowing him to go into the commune multiple times despite having no knowledge of what he intends to do and having no leverage over him. Ambessa's story in Act 2 ends on a cliffhanger, as her pursuit of Warwick and her trusting of Singed directly leads to Rictus's death, which has a clear emotional effect on Ambessa. Ambessa was shown to confide in Rictus, treating him as far more than just a henchman or a bodyguard. She valued him for his loyalty and his unwavering dedication to enforcing her will, and it is a shame that she never acknowledges that he died because of her own trusting of an obviously untrustworthy individual with questionable motives. Ambessa was on thin ice after Act 1, but Act 2 brings her stupidity and incompetence to the forefront, and as such, this supposedly highly intelligent and competent character is annihilated by the end of Act 2. Babette, the Hordle, and Jericho each appear for about 10 seconds as they hang around during the rally. Babette is seen to be arrested, although we do not see Jericho getting arrested, which potentially means the enforcers decided to let him off with a warning because Jericho is just the sweetest guy. Neither character does anything in Act 2, and so they escape untarnished. Caitlin appears for 19
I mean, everyone
minutes in
likes Jared.
Act 2, approximately half of what she had in Act 1. Act 1 sent Caitlin down a dark path. She spent the time skip at the climax of that dark path, and Act 2 attempted to bring her back to the light. This arc is incredibly poorly executed because it is never made clear why Caitlin has a change of heart. We begin to get small moments during episode 4 that suggest that Caitlin's dedication to her cause is wavering. She is reluctant to continue her occupation of Zorn, but believes she must in order to capture Jinx. She has a problem with Rictus's actions despite her own actions in episodes 2 and 3 being far more egregious, and she suddenly believes that arrests require cause, despite arresting a man with no cause in episode 3. We learn that although she has the ability to lock people away in the deepest, darkest part of the prison, Caitlin is such a good person that she won't do this unless, of course, you fail to cooperate with her. Caitlin continues to be obsessed with capturing Jinx.
You what?
To the point where she assumes that Jinx was somehow involved in Warwick's rampage, when, in actuality, through blind luck, Jinx was responsible for stopping it. However, Caitlin's obsession with capturing Jinx ceases entirely when she meets Vi in episode 6. She inexplicably does not hit the fucking roof when Jinx, the person responsible for killing her mother, trying to kill her multiple times and ruining her life, gets to have a happy family reunion. Caitlin doesn't directly question Ambessa's obviously subversive actions, such as releasing Singed, and she also agrees to work with Singed, a man who literally has severed heads in his workshop, and she also doesn't
That scared
appear
the shit out of me.
when Ambessa and Rictus
Hi,
almost
Monet.
start executing civilians. It is Singed who prevents this from happening, not Caitlin. So all of this is to say that Caitlin is a confused mess during Act 2. And all of this is meant to explain why she eventually decides to betray Ambessa and help Vi by the time we hit episode 6. The reason why she changes her mind is because we need the scene in Act 3 that everyone has been waiting for, and so the writers made her change her mind. However, I don't really have an in-universe explanation for this. Caitlin is by no means as bad in Act 2 as she was in Act 1, but Act 2 certainly does nothing to repair this train wreck of a character. Felicia, Vi and Powder's mother, appears for 3 minutes. She is a very simple character, shown to be good friends with Vanda and Silco. Her mannerisms are very reminiscent of Jinx, and the most notable part of her characterization is that she is unsure if she is ready to be a mother. Although her scene damages both Vanda and Silco, I don't have any problems with Felicia's characterization. Isha, the random kid, appears for 34 minutes, the second highest in Act 2. We spend more time with Isha in Act 2 than we spent with Milo and Clagger in Season 1. As was the case in Act 1, Isha can barely be described as a character. Her characterization, if we can call it that, her motive, her decision-making, and her physical design are all a single-purpose, blunt instrument intended to beat the audience bloody and make them feel things at the end of Episode 6. There is nothing to Isha other than that she wants to be Jinx. She is a pale shadow of Powder. From the moment she was inserted into this story, she was very deliberately meant to evoke Jinx's own childhood. She tries to jump across a gap, she fails, and unlike Powder, she does not have anyone to catch her. And so, she falls on Jinx's head, and thus their adventure begins. She then spends her childhood living with and idolizing a suicidal terrorist, leading directly to her own death, and then she is never mentioned again. Jinx is the only character who addresses Isha directly. The one exception to this is Singed in the cable car, and so Isha seems to exist in a bubble. No one talks to either Jinx or Isha about their relationship. We don't get a scene where Vi or Savika ask Jinx, who exactly is this kid and where did she come from? Isha's existence is acknowledged by other characters, such as when she attacks Rictus, when Savika carries her out of Stillwater, when Vi reflexively elbows her in the face, and when Isha lights the flare at the rally. But these are all mechanical actions that are not connected to Isha's own story, because Isha does not have a story outside of her relationship with Jinx. Isha is the most one-dimensional character in Arcane. From the moment she was introduced, it was blindingly obvious what the writers were doing. And the most frustrating part is that Isha's actions accomplish nothing. she rewinds Jinx back to where she was at the end of Season 1, which is where she should have been at the start of Season 2. Season 2 instead decided to waste a whole load of time building up this pseudo relationship between Jinx and Isha, where Jinx is given a reason to live and recovers her family and her sense of worth, only for this to be undone.
Gimme.
The primary focus of
Give
Act
ya.
2 is on the Jinx-Isha narrative, and outside of a couple of somewhat important characters.
I love you. And yes, I had to verify that that wasn't Pep. My love. My love. Yeah, the stream's still going.
Character beats, such as Caitlyn becoming a
Oh,
goodie
wow.
and Warwick being introduced, you could skip watching Act 2 and go straight
Heh.
to Act 3 without missing very much. I can't say that the show has annihilated the character of Isha from Act 1, because there is nothing to annihilate. She does the one single thing she was created to do. Gert appears for 3 minutes. Who the fuck is Gert, I hear you ask? Well, Gert is this lady right here with blue hair, who is seen a handful of times in Season 2, and she is used as the face of the Jinxoid cult. This means Gert is an incomprehensible moron with no moral compass because she worships a mass-murdering terrorist, because she believes doing so will serve as a middle finger to the enforcers. That's all we get. Gert is an idiot. Moving on. Harold appears for 5 seconds. He eats Jericho's food and might have been... Fuck it, he's Harold. Let's keep going. Huck appears for 4 minutes in Act 2. Huck is an interesting bunny because he was healed by Victor in Episode 2, and when we next see him in Episode 6, he has undergone a complete personality shift. It is unclear how much of this is Victor doing magic bullshit to Huck's brain, or if Huck is indeed willing to risk his life repeatedly by telling criminals, warmongers, and terrorists, hey, please
What are
can I
you
have your
listening to?
weapons? He dies when Victor is killed, although he is resurrected.
This is a video by Random Film Talk. He has a wonderful series about Arcane, the amazing show, and its second season, the terrible show. Okay. Alright, let's get iron nuggets. Oh, wait. Okay, is there a bauble slot for that? No. Offhand it is. I'll put you there. The lantern can be placed on fewer blocks, so it is slightly more convenient. Have you seen Arcane? I know I've mentioned it to you before, but I don't know if it was actually like something you've watched. Yo. I knew from my visit in Spectator that this thing existed.
No.
But it is baller that I managed to accidentally my way here. I'm immune to fall damage. Just make sure there's nothing alert. Okay. Now that's some bullshit right there. I think I have to activate it in order to open it. Yeah, so Arcane Season 1 is one of the best shows ever made. And Season 2 managed to take all of the good things about that season and ruin almost all of them. Its animation is still, top tier. But that's pretty much all it's got. I can go back to the beginning of the video essays if you want, but we should honestly just spend some time watching that together at some point. That'd be the ideal way to demonstrate the sheer drop in quality. But no, season 1 is so good that even if you just want to stop after season 1, it's totally worth it. It's a complete story. You don't need to watch season 2.
All right.
And appears brief.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Are you doing anything tomorrow? Assuming I have internet, of course.
Honestly, it can't be any worse than Last of Us 2's story. Nope.
Yeah, we're gonna date. All right. Yes, that will be for tomorrow. It's only 9 episodes per season, so we can pretty easily clear the whole thing. Hey, free chest. I will take that gladly. I will take that gladly. I'll take you, and you. Oh, actually, those torches would be better offhand. Huh. Yeah, I'll take that. Let's eat golden carrot. Ooh. That's a whole lot of iron in one spot. And another random apothic dungeon. Or is this a regular dungeon? I think this is a regular dungeon. Oh, is there anything to do with skulk sensors? No, it doesn't look like it. I will go for that. Yeah, that'll be a good time. I am curious though whether or not you'll want to see season 2 after seeing how good the ending to season 1 is. Just having the knowledge that it gets worse. Anything that doesn't stack. Ooh. Is there anything that drops from the warden? So I do want a bunch of candles.
Briefly as a robot in Act 3. So there isn't much I can say about Huck because he only really functions as an extension of Victor's will. Regardless, I think he survives Season 2 intact. Jace appears for 9 minutes in Act 2. He is barely a character, and it is impossible to assess his motives or his characterization until we get the context from Episode 7. Without that context, Jace's actions are overtly mysterious, and this will have been a clear decision from the writers to heighten the drama surrounding what exactly happened at the end of Episode 3. Jace essentially becomes convinced to murder people to prevent the apocalypse. He shows absolutely no remorse for his actions. It is later revealed that killing Victor did not have the desired effect, and yet there is no self-reflection from Jace regarding his actions. He does not ever consider if he has been tricked, or if he was indeed doing a bad thing for good reasons. Jace was a man who wanted to help people. Hurting or killing others was something that horrified him. And Act 2 of Season 2 turns this man into an emotionless murder hobo and then fails to adequately justify these actions in Act 3. We are so far detached from the character of Jace from Season 1 that we may as well be watching a different TV show. He was already annihilated in Act 1, but Acts 2 and 3 drive this character further into the dirt.
How did you get here?
For 43 minutes and receives more screen time than any other character in Act 2. Gone are the days of Season 1's honest exploration of childhood trauma and the consequences of one's upbringing, for Jinx is now cured. She quite comfortably discusses events from her past that were highly triggering for her not too long ago, and this culminates in her finding herself in a situation where she is holding a gun whilst Caitlin, whom she has wanted dead since the moment she saw her, walks into the building. And not only does Jinx remain totally cool and in control of her emotions, but she also intervenes and saves Caitlin's life. The primary emotional core of Act 2 is Jinx's relationship with Isha, which is fundamentally broken. The plot relies upon the idea that Jinx cares about Isha, that she has to at least some degree grown up and accepted responsibility. The whole reason why Jinx refuses to take a stand against Piltover is because she is afraid of losing Isha, just like she lost everyone else. However, Jinx is shown repeatedly to be incapable of protecting Isha. And I don't mean that she tries and fails, although this happens as well. I mean, she often doesn't even try. She spends hours talking to Silco's chair instead of looking out for Isha, when Isha has just demonstrated a desire to take huge risks and put herself in danger. She teaches this child how to use guns and bombs, and Jinx's own actions ultimately lead to Isha killing herself.
Well, she's Jinx. After everything she's gone through, you can't expect her to be a model sister.
No, I am not ready for you yet, retarded alter ego. I have not yet recovered from the abyss of Rings of Power, but yeah, sorry, you can't have it both ways. Either Jinx is a deeply depressed and borderline non-functional nihilist who is terrified of ruining everything, or she is an upbeat, quirky goofball who loves and cares for her new adoptive sister. Jinx quite clearly uses Isha to improve her own life, whereas Jinx does not improve Isha's life, regardless of what Isha might think. Jinx steals the opportunity for a normal life from Isha, and this is ultimately what leads to her death. Arcane seems to believe that Jinx is a beacon of hope and a genuine hero, and although Jinx rejects this initially, this is simply an inescapable fact that she must embrace. She initially treats this idea with sarcastic dismissal, but after accidentally rescuing everyone, she begins to take it more seriously. The recontextualization of what Jinx means is perhaps one of the most offensive parts of Season 2, as it completely undermines what this meant in Season 1. The show also tries to rewrite the events of Season 1 by claiming that the reason Vander died was because they didn't all work together. And when Isha and Warwick are exploded, Jinx returns to having nothing. The things that kept her sane are now gone, as are her reasons to live. In other words, she is exactly where she was at the end of Season 1, which is precisely what I did not want them to do with this character. Jinx survived Act 1 tenuously intact, but Act 2 annihilates basically everything there is to her. LeBlanc appears for 6 minutes. She is a twisted mess of incompetence and incomprehensibility that has been given godlike powers but is incapable of using them. LeBlanc's objective in Act 2, also including the opening scene from Episode 8, is to convince Mel to help her kill Ambessa. The reason she wants to do this is that she has foreseen a coming catastrophe, and she believes that killing Ambessa will avert this. This catastrophe LeBlanc refers to is either Victor's actions in Act 3, or potentially a possible future in which Ambessa will acquire Hextech, and this will then cause unprecedented levels of destruction. If LeBlanc is referring to the former, then I don't know why she thought killing Ambessa would avert this apocalypse, and spoiler alert, it doesn't. And if she is referring to the latter, then this means LeBlanc witnessed something similar to Jace in an alternate universe, but received faulty information and believed Ambessa was the true threat and not Victor. Anyway, point being, LeBlanc needs to convince Mel to help her. So what does she do? Well, she murders Elora, admits to having previously murdered Kino, tells Mel that she cannot be trusted, and generally acts in a highly suspicious manner for absolutely no reason. When Mel says, "Okay, cool, I'll help you," LeBlanc doesn't say, "Wait, are you serious? Did you miss the part where I keep murdering your associates? And did you miss the part where I asked you to kill your own mother?" LeBlanc seems to be trying to avert an apocalypse, meaning that time is of the essence, and yet she does not use her incredible powers to teleport Mel back to Piltover so as to get the job done sooner. LeBlanc is a non-functional character who absolutely breaks the show. By the way, yes, I do plan on doing a live tier list stream for Arcane, but I am saving that one for part 3. Lest, the cat lady, appears for 1 minute, and in that 1 minute, the writers break her. She was primarily characterized as extremely nervous and twitchy. She was reluctant to help Mel, but she did so anyway, because Mel used her magical manipulation powers, which then made Lest cooperate. In Act 2, Lest doesn't care that Mel has disappeared, and she is not at all worried about the potential consequences for her. Lest should not still be in Piltover, given her behavior previously, and given Mel's unexplained disappearance. However, we do get a nice moment between her and Sallow, where it is shown that, despite Sallow being a selfish asshat, and despite the fact that Lest is being paid to be nice to him, she does seem to genuinely want to help him. She empathizes with him and takes pity on him, leading to Sallow becoming a changed man. Regardless, Lest is damaged by Act 2. Locke, Silco's ex-henchman, appears for 46 seconds. He apparently now fights people for money. I don't know why this man has been released from Stillwater, because he was arrested in Season 2, Act 2, and chronologically we are maybe a year down the line, and Marcus has been dead for a while, so he almost certainly was not involved in releasing Locke early. But I guess Locke's involvement in a criminal organization, including the transportation of large amounts of shimmer, only warrants a few months of prison time. Let's move on. Locke punches things and gets punched by Vi. Everyone claps. Mission accomplished. Loris, the Shieldman, appears for 1 minute in Act 2. He does nothing other than join Vi on a months-long drinking and punching binge. He quit being an enforcer after Caitlyn became a dictator, and he appears to be enjoying his new life partying with Vi. Eventually, Vi lashes out at him, and he leaves. Loris did not see Vi's self-destructive spiral for what it was, and so I have no idea if he actually cares about Vi or was just trying to have a good time. He remains a non-character. Maddie, the girlman, appears for 3 minutes in Act 2. Maddie essentially does nothing, only appearing in 2 scenes during which she appears to question Caitlyn's actions whilst helping her hunt down Jinx. The most notable development for Maddie is that she is now romantically involved with Caitlyn, and she appears to want Caitlyn to withdraw from Zorn so that everything can go back to normal, but I can't really explore what this means for her character until we get the reveal that she is a Noxian mole, so for now, I will continue. Mel appears for 8 minutes in Act 2. What is there to say about Mel that has not been said already? The writers have destroyed this character by making her an integral part of the Black Rose subplot. Mel has no agency in Act 2, and narratively all that happens to her is that LeBlanc delivers a whole load of exposition whilst disguised as Kino, and then Mel is banished to the Shadow Realm, at which point she explodes and becomes a mage. Mel doesn't actually take any actions in Act 2. The plot simply happens to her, which means whilst she is not annihilated in the same way that many other characters have been, the writers have still managed to totally undermine who Mel was in Season 1 by stripping away her intelligence, charisma, and cunning, and replacing these traits with a magical ability to sense others' inner selves. Mel's story in Season 1 is thoroughly damaged by Act 2 of Season 2, but she is not quite annihilated just yet. Rictus, my dear angel, who was taken from us too soon, appears for 10 minutes in Act 2. Rictus continues to be a ray of light in Season 2 because he seems to be the only character who addresses obvious questions on behalf of the audience. The treatment of Rictus in Act 2 reminds me of how Rings of Power treated Elrond in Season 2, Episode 1, when he repeatedly acknowledged and rightfully criticized Galadriel's behavior, and questioned her moral compass when she concealed Sauron's involvement in the creation of the Elven Rings and allowed Elrond and Celebrimbor to forge them in ignorance. Although Elrond was absolutely correct to make these observations and to refuse to have anything to do with these rings, the perspective of Rings of Power was that if only Elrond and Gil-galad had listened to Galadriel, everything would have been okay. Similarly, although Rictus hits the nail on the fucking head when he frustratedly asks the Jinxoid cult, why are you protecting the person responsible for your suffering, the perspective of Arcane is that actually, no. Rictus is a villain and Jinx is a hero. And that is why everyone protects her. Rictus is for the most part highly competent. The only failure is that he was unable to capture Sevika at the rally, which should have been guaranteed given the circumstances, but this is one small blemish on an otherwise solid side character. He dies through no fault of his own whilst serving Ambessa, only to be torn to pieces by a giant monster. This scene feels very unfair, as Rictus is a physical juggernaut who has obviously spent his entire life training to be as formidable an opponent as possible, and he is jumped whilst injured by a monster multiple times his size. This feels very similar to having a highly skilled martial artist or swordsman get shot by someone less skilled who was only able to defeat them through cheating. And whilst Warwick didn't choose to do this, the dishonorable manner by which Rictus is killed means that he does not die as a result of any failing on his part. He does not sacrifice himself for his ideals, such as to protect Ambessa. He is simply torn apart, and his death is only used to inform other characters' actions. Regardless, Rictus is probably the best character in Season 2, although I really do not at all like the way that they killed him off. Sallow appears for 5 minutes in Act 2. He has continued his descent into depression, drinking, and drug abuse, and he talks about the good old days when he was important. He goes to see Victor as a last resort, whereupon he is healed, and, like Huck, it is difficult to say how much of what happens next can be attributed to Sallow's change in his desires or Victor's control over him. Either way, Sallow appears to now work for Victor, believing that Victor is a messiah who has enabled him to turn his life around. He is then murdered by Jace because Victor is an asshole. Sallow is perfectly fine in Act 2, and his characterization is consistent with Act 1. Scar, the biker mouse from Mars, appears for 3 minutes. Because Echo has been ejected from the story until the finale, Scar is apparently now the de facto leader of the Firelights. In Season 1, Scar was shown to be more violent and less open to the idea of cooperating with outsiders than Echo was.
Honestly, this just sounds terrible based off of what I'm hearing.
Remember, this is Season 2 they're talking about. This is all the great stuff from Season 1 getting annihilated. Not Season 1 being bad. The new stuff being bad. Okay, let's get this going. Yeah, get the candles in there. We'll go with sea pickles.
Why they even bother with season 2 if this is the writing?
Again, this is the writing of season 2. They were hired to do 2 seasons. They dedicated a bunch of years to plotting out season 1 and making it amazing. They succeeded, and they didn't put in the same level of effort and craftsmanship, instead focusing on spectacle for season 2. And there's a lot of good spectacle. I'm not knocking the spectacle. Their animation remains amazing. Their music is at least energetic, if not exactly cogent with the world. Like there are positives. There's just a lot less positives. Okay. Start by removing all the ores. Bones are actually out here. Okay. Oh. Aquatrine. Okay. So the story of Arcane is not over. That's something that needs to be remembered, because they're going to keep making it because it makes money. Doesn't matter if it's a bad show, which again, season 1 was amazing, so I can't even call it a bad show. It's a bad season. They're gonna keep doing it forever and ever till the end of time.
I'd drop this series. This sounds awful.
Minute. Let's just watch season 1 together, and we can stop. Okay? Season 1 is amazing. He has like 9 hours of content explaining why that was amazing, which is exactly how he can get away with having 12 hours of why he hates season 2. It was so good that he's dedicated that much time on his channel to this stuff. Season 1 is worth it. We can just stop.
organized by Silco's number 2, and upon being freed from Stillwater, he gives Jinx and Savika a respectful nod, despite the fact that Jinx definitely and Savika almost certainly have killed a lot of his friends. Scar is not a character.
12 hours.
He is a thematic device that the writers use to symbolize the union of Zorn under Jinx.
Yes,
He
12
is
hours.
incapable of rationalizing, and although he didn't
So this video, which is for part 2, is 4 hours and 27 minutes. Part 1 is 3 hours and 55 minutes. And let me see if I can find part 3 here. The hell? Did he take it down? Okay, I think I have to look at their channel because I'm not seeing it. Annihilation of a Masterpiece part. They took down part 3! Probably got copyright claimed. Let's see if I can Google it. Random film talk. The Masterpiece Part 3. Found it. 3 hours and 48 minutes. Video's unavailable due to a copyright claim by Netflix. Yep. So it would be about 12 hours and 15 minutes. Actually, wait, I just closed that. Is it... That was a Reddit post. Did someone have a download of it? No. That's analyzing a masterpiece. Yeah, it's just been taken down. I can't get it. That kind of sucks. That means I'm not going to be able to finish the video essay lesson. Squid. The squid here just love dying on my wall. Alright, let's take out all the dirt. Smooth that upstairs. I was setting up a better storage system for that in just a minute. Okay, enchantment books. You're good, you're good, you're good. So all of you get to go down here. Ancient tomes. Arrows go in the tool chest. Okay, so I can do the wither fight. I need all the equipment. Okay, any of you have enchantments I want to keep? You. I need more books. Which means I need more leather. Alright, give me those hides. Huh. I had books in here, right? Okay, you're done. What if you had like a bajillion enchants I wanted? Oh, it was you. And you. Alright, well that means you're all good. It's just gem stuff? Okay. Speaking of gem stuff. You're trash, you're trash.
Sleepy.
Sleepy, huh? And does that mean you want to go to bed?
MMHM.
MMHM. Sorry, I just found that kind of cute. Well, it is 9:14. We've had our muster. I can go to bed. You want to go to bed, Melon?
Yes.
Okay. I will join you in going to bed right after I kill this whip. How does that sound? Oh my god, is this another cave? Okay, it's a poorly positioned wither trap then. Okay. How the hell do I get out of here? I don't remember how I got in. Up here? Yeah, it's up here. Mission accomplished. I could do a whole lot with that. Alright. Well, I'm going to leave it there, but I love you.